Welcome to Open the Brain. I think to start off, I'm just going to jump right into it. I feel confidently that almost all of the world's problems stem from ego and ignorance, and by that, I mean that the anger, hate, and confusion that we see throughout the world so often is a huge domino effect of people's ignorance being fueled by their ego not allowing them to accept when they may be wrong, or just misunderstanding something, because we're not always wrong. Sometimes we just don't understand what's been said. Oftentimes, by the point in an argument or debate that you realize you may agree with the person you're debating with, it's already been so heated and there's already blood and adrenaline pumping through your body so much that it's too difficult to tell them, hey, I think you might be right. I think I might have been wrong, or I think I misunderstood you. I agree with you, actually. But sometimes it's not... sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes people start to shift their opinions subconsciously because their ego doesn't want them to even get to that point of admitting that. Or maybe they do understand it, but they're starting to shift their view anyway. They're starting to slowly shift things because they feel as though they're just so often wrong in an area where they want to be accepted. If you really think about it, there are some points in life where, let's say you're a Trump supporter and you've been supporting him for a couple years now, but now you're seeing how he's handling certain things, and you think to yourself, well, I don't agree with how he's handling certain things, and I don't want to support him anymore. Now, you could think that, but then you might start to look around and be like, well, wait a second, my husband and my children and my neighbors who I interact with on a daily basis, they also support Trump like I have. And you might think, oh, well, maybe I've ostracized other people in the community because of their beliefs or their opinion. So to now become someone who no longer agrees with the things that you once ostracized other people for not agreeing with, it can be scary. It could make you not want to reach out. And there really isn't a lot of support for people who change their minds. This also extends to the religious communities. Think about a Christian who might be donating Bibles or maybe money down to build churches in an area, or maybe he's even volunteering to build the church themselves, but he's down there in a village where there's people starving, there's people who haven't drank water in 2 days and it's dirty water, and all this guy is doing is just building churches, getting Bibles, trying to push God, whatever. Now, you might look at them and think, okay, well, it's pretty messed up that this guy is not really doing any effort to help keep these children safe, or these adults safe. There's adults who are starving too. It's not always children who starve. But these people are trying to help the starving people, they say, but all they're doing is going out there and pushing their ideas or their agenda. And so you might think, okay, well, this person's a terrible person. He must be so evil. The thing is, he could just be very ignorant of the realities of things. These people, the Christians, they're not going out to these places and handing out Bibles with the idea of, oh, this person must be so sad. They've been handed a Bible. You can't eat this. Ha ha ha. All evil. No, to them, they legitimately believe that there's some kind of all-powerful guy in the sky or on a planet, wherever. They believe truly that there's this place that's going to have them either suffer more or less for just simply existing and how they chose to exist. And so, despite the fact that they are obviously in very much need of food, this person who is going out there and not feeding them, they sometimes really are just ignorant to such a high extreme that they're causing more suffering. So though they should not be allowed, they should not be allowed to go out there and do that. We should have rules to make sure that there are not people going out there and furthering any suffering in this world. And we need to especially focus on the fact that most of the suffering, or I don't know if most, but there's suffering in this world that is being caused by people who don't even realize that they're causing it. In our education system, there is so much mixed signals going on from the administration and from the teachers, and just it's not a good environment to have a child in. I remember in middle school, from 5th grade until 8th grade, we had a class about once a week for about an hour where we'd meet up with the assistant principal, and he'd show us different videos or talk about different topics, give us paper assignments to read, and it would just be all different things like anti-bullying videos, anti-drug videos, don't get pregnant videos, all different types of things to try to show us the ropes for the world. And one particular thing that stuck in my mind to this day, I don't really remember much of the class, but I remember to this day, he showed us some girl around our age, video of her going through these flashcards. It was pretty much her goodbye video, I think, like her suicide goodbye video. And he told us about all the different things, and this was going along with the anti-bullying aspect of the class. And I remember having a really weird feeling in my mind, and it was the fact that I was heavily bullied in that school, and that it wasn't really that he didn't really ever seem to care about what bullying was going on around students. This all ties back to ignorance. It seems that so often nowadays, parents and teachers and other people, they just seem very oblivious to the generation that came after them. If you're a parent, you don't really seem to understand what your kid's going through. It's such a common joke nowadays of, oh, you don't understand me and this and that, but it truly is that. So many people have a hard time really processing that everyone around us is also seeing and thinking the same way that we are. Not the same thoughts that we're thinking, but when someone's looking out in front of them, they're in their body. It's not like how we see them in the third person. I think it becomes really difficult to process that that's another human. That person is me to themselves. Just like you are me to yourself. And not me as in me, but me as in you. In that we are all humans. We're not the star of the world. This is not our movie. This is the world. Everyone is equally in this part as the other. One place in my life where I especially noticed a lot of disconnect between different humans was when I was in New York City, both before and after I ended up homeless. Before I ended up homeless, I was still pretty okay with homeless people. If I saw someone on the street, I'd hand them some quarters or whatever I had in my pocket change. When I was even as young as 10 years old, I would run up, drop it in the cup, whatever I had from going to the store with my mom or something. And over time, as I got older, I'd talk to them occasionally. I'd see how people were doing. Even, I remember there was one guy and he was going around, he's yelling, F white people, F white people. And I decided I'd say I agree. I said F white people too. And he was confused at first, but he came over, he shook my hand, we started talking. I told him of my life. I'm half native, so I told him that I didn't choose to be white. I mean, I think that wasn't my fault. And he agreed. He felt empathy for me. He understood. He's like, I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry that you ended up white. But all these different people, they're not all the homeless people are like that guy. That I brought up that point by it just kind of popped my head. But the thing is that not all homeless people are like that. Not all of them are these crazy people who are yelling something. And even that guy, crazy as he was, what is crazy exactly? Because he shook my hand and he spoke to me like I was a proper individual. He understood that I was one of the people he was screaming, well, F you about, but he also could make the distinctions. He made thought process points, or whatever you'd call them. He made points. He said things that showed that despite how crazy he would be, that he understood the world around him. And so even crazy people, even crazy homeless people sometimes can be understood. So what are we calling crazy? What is the real difference between the guy on television who's all cuckoo crazy, one eye sticking the other way, all kinds of crazy stuff? What's the difference between that guy and the guy on the street? Well, probably a lot. There's probably a whole bunch different. I remember at one point I saw two homeless people and they had a dog with them. It was myself, a friend, my friend's father. And they do really well, and especially compared to this guy on the street. So my friend's dad offers. He said, "Can I buy that dog from you? I'll pay you to have the dog." And the guy's refusing. No, you can't have the dog. And on thinking back, the dog was kind of dirty because it's a dog and dogs go outside. But I mean, it didn't look thin. It was a pit bull, so it's kind of big, and it was not thin at all. It was very well fed. Well, I'd learned later when I was homeless that when you have a dog, especially a dog that's protection. That dog is everything for you. You're going to keep that dog alive if it kills you. That dog is what's going to be keeping you alive. So you keep it alive until you are dead. And so it started to make sense to me that it was that these people weren't necessarily just some cocoa cuckoo crazy people. This isn't just that they don't just pop up out of nowhere. It's not mushrooms that pop up and it's like the crazy person just sitting there. Like these are individuals that had entire lives. I was an individual. I didn't have an entire life. I mean I ended up almost at like 20, but I had a life. I was an individual. I became them. But at the same time, I mean, I didn't get absorbed into that kind of life. I didn't dive into the ways that things were. I have a friend who's a little bit older than me, and he was also homeless, and he was teaching me certain things, but there were things that I just didn't go along with. There were rules that I picked up for survival, but there were things that I just didn't do because I didn't want to delve fully into that life. I had the idea that I was going to be out of there, that I wasn't going to live life as a homeless person. And as of half a year now, I obviously have not been. 8 months now. As of 8 months now, that has been no longer the case of homelessness. But the thing is that like we just, as a society, we don't understand each other. We don't understand the basic problems. There is so much disconnect between people. Okay, I think that's where we're gonna stop for today. I'll be making more podcast episodes. I think for now we'll say weekly, but if it increases, then I'll keep you guys updated. But for now, it'll be weekly.